Now onto the rugby league news. Joshua Jackson retires. What a this bloke retires at a glamour club, and the fanfare around it would be absolutely incredible. Like, put it this way, it'd be similar to Orbo. Just a bloke that gets the job done every week. I mean, it's one thing being a battler in a good side. Imagine being a battler in a really good side and then a battler in a really bad side. When it comes to like principles, it's always like principles, they don't waver or change. Regardless of the environment around you, you deliver whatever your principles say. And Josh Jackson is the epitome of that. Whether he's in grand finals or whether he's at the bottom of the table, he is going to give you everything he's got. And that's the measure of a man. It's not a man that very easy to be in front, a front runner, and everyone loves you and you're a hero and the team's killing it. And for you to get up and you get the energy and you the carry on. I mean, I was a winger. I mean, shit, that's what I did, baby. I was the front runner. But Josh Jackson, week in, week out, delivered, earned his pay packet. What an incredible career. What a guy to have around the club. And I think there was a crazy stat. Guru, have you got this stat? I won't rob you of it if you've got it.
I can actually claim this one this week. So throughout his entire career, outside of his debut season he played 12 games. Outside of that, for the next decade, he averaged 23 games per season.
Jeez.
So there's only 25 a year, 24 once you take out buys. He essentially played every game he possibly could. And granted, the first 2 years they played in grand finals and stuff. They played a bit of finals footy, but he hasn't played any finals footy for 5 or 6 years. So to average 23 games, the least amount of games he played outside of his debut was 17 in a season. When you think about how tough he played our game, incredible. And you go back to that debut season, Kempy, his 12th game, he was a starting back rower in a grand final. He made his debut off the bench in round 16. By round 18, he was starting. In that Canterbury brack, you're talking James Graham's, Cassianos, all these guys. He was a starting back rower after 12 games of NRL against the Melbourne Storm in the 2012 grand final. Crazy.
Yeah, as I said, because the Bulldogs are struggling right now, he doesn't get appreciated for what he has done for that club. And, 23 games, I cannot, That's Cam Smith territory. It might even be a higher average. That's so, and we're talking about a bloke that, Cam Smith, he was like very smart about the way he hit contact, very crafty. Josh Jackson was a motherfucker, taking massive hit ups, getting through 40 tackles with big contact in attack, in defense, always cleaning up. A lot bigger body as well. So usually if you've got a bigger body, not all the time, but usually the injuries can be a bit because the contact is bigger. Absolutely amazing. Timmy, I'm sure you're a big Josh Jackson fan, surely.
I do absolutely love Josh Jackson. Surprise, surprise, boys. And on his 23 games per year, he's also playing as a back rower and towards the back end of his career as a middle forward at times, playing at the lock for the Doggies. And he was pretty well 80 minutes his entire career as well. So he wasn't, playing off the bench or chopping and changing, having 30 and 40-minute games. He pretty well 80 minutes the entire time. Absolutely loved Josh Jackson. He was just so no-nonsense, caused no controversy at the club. Such a perfect player to build your club around, which is what the Bulldogs did. It's disappointing to see him leave at this time when he's gone through these tough years with the Doggies. There's light at the end of the tunnel for him, a lot of hope for them leading into 2023. He's leaving. But at the same time, the way he's exiting the game and the way he's exiting the Bulldogs, I think sums up his entire career, because he was contracted to next year on, I read a report that was $600K. So you can imagine the amount of cap pressure that was on the Bulldogs with all these new recruits, and the chat that the club would have had to have up top among the coaching staff, the boards, Josh Jackson, in order to say, look, we need to free up cash to allow Reid Marnie to come in and Viliami kick out, to extend Matty Burton was probably the big one. And Josh Jackson being the club first kind of guy that is, again, I don't know the specific details of it, but has obviously obliged, said, I could play for one more year on $600K, or I can organise it off field, free up the cap space for this club and allow them to continue to move forward, because he had more footy left in him, Josh Jackson, even if it was, a bench forward for less a minute. What an absolute champion of the game.
Yeah, it's a great point in regards to, the rumours came out that it was a pressure because salary cap, and then the Bulldogs have kind of denied that. Wherever the truth lies, the fact of the matter is the Bulldogs have more money to upgrade players. And there's one guy's name that screams, it's Matty Burton. Like, this guy is currently in the Australian squad, currently in the New South Wales squad. He's on current, the reports are around the 500K mark. You do the math and it's like most of that's probably going to go to Matty Burton. Rightly so. And for Josh Jackson to step aside the way he did, and a guy that he didn't look, when I was watching him play this year, he didn't look busted or, couldn't go around again. So I would assume, again, it's just a guess, but I would assume that there was some sacrifice from Josh Jackson to go, you know what? What's best for the club? What do I need to do? What sacrifices do I need to make? Look, you put 2 and 2 together equals 4. This bloke who spent his whole life sacrificing for the club, you think he's not going to do it in a key point? Again, all assumptions, don't have the facts, but I think you can safely assume that this bloke has taken one for the team. And if I'm being honest, like, if I was a salary cap manager, I would probably have that conversation with him to keep Matty Burton. If that was the case, if it's a case that they really need to keep Matty in that, I would always respect a veteran of the club and always honour the contract because he has given so much to the club. But I would also let him know the situation. He would know the situation. He'd be so involved in it because he's such a veteran of the club. So you're absolutely right, Timmy. I think there probably was a little bit of a sacrifice there. And I think Bulldogs fans, I know you do love Josh Jackson, but over the next 2 years, if you start just exploding and heading up the table, don't forget this bloke could have easily said, no, I want my 600K. I've earned that. I've broken my body to bits for this club. I earned that contract. And that could have been the difference between keeping one of your key players. So always remember blokes like Josh Jackson. A lot of people won't, and that's fair enough. You can consume footy the way you want. But, if they do go on back up towards the top of the table, this moment, I think, is a quite defining moment, in my opinion.
I was just having a look through his entire career. So he scored 24 tries throughout his career, never scored a double, but round 25, 2012, scored a triple that day. Josh Jackson. So
yeah.
I did not see that coming at all. Can be my question to you. He's obviously the skipper. Who do you choose to take over? I think Josh Addo-Carr is the obvious one, but do you pick a winger to captain your side? You're probably the best person to ask. What do you reckon?
Oh, well, obviously, I'm a leader of men. I could have led the Brizzy Broncos. I don't know why they gave it to Lockie. Bullshit.
Darren Hill.
No, I don't think you give it to Josh. Not because I don't think he's not a leader, but like, his energy is free. And maybe I'm getting a bit too vibey here, but his energy is free and happy-go-lucky. Don't put that added nonsense on him where he's got to sit in press conferences, get absolutely peppered by journos and that. Keep him as the rogue, the joker, the fun guy on the side, the guy that, if he comes to a young guy with a captain on his, arm or whatever, the younger guy might be a bit like, oh, shit. Whereas if he comes as the guy that kind of can mould and go between different groups, which he does so well, we see it. He goes in the Origin camp, he goes to Australian camp. So I would be looking more towards, it's a tough one, but you'd be probably looking more towards, oh, man. Going through it now.
There aren't any real standouts. I'd chuck Matt Burton in there. I'd chuck Luke Thompson in there. Maybe Reid. But
the problem is Luke Thompson's on the way out. Like, they keep reporting that they want to move him on.
Yeah.
It's a really, really tough one. I just think that and I've been wrong about this before. When Roger Tuivasa got named captain of the Warriors, I was like, I don't like that. I want him to just be free to play rugby league. And that was wrong. And he killed it and he was fantastic. So, look, maybe Fox is the guy. Maybe he's the only answer. And maybe he wants to be a leader. It'd be an incredible achievement for him. So I agree in regards to Guru, if this is what you're saying, like, Josh is probably the obvious answer. Like, that's the easy, like, look, everyone respects him. Everyone believes in him. Maybe what you do is you go, Josh, you've got it for a year. Matty Burton, not Matty Waterboy, sorry, bro.
Damn it. I got the captaincy then.
He's only one
Burton,
letter off too. He's told me a few times.
Yeah, I always say that Matt Burton lacks a bit of X factor.
Yeah.
Dickhead.
And I'd be honestly fast-tracking Matty Burton. I'd be putting him in leadership courses, learning everything he can from guys like Josh Addo-Carr. I'd be trying to get like one-on-one meetings with Brad Fittler. Every resource that I could pull to try to make Matty Burton a leader, I would, you don't want to overload him. He's still really young, but I would still be trying to prepare for a world. Because, I mean, in 5 years' time, I think we kind of all agree Matt Burton seems like the obvious choice in 3 or 4 years. Are we on the same page, or what do you think?
I agree with you, but I also think similar to Luke Thompson. I mean, they're not sure if he's going to stay just yet as well. So it's a bit of an awkward one for Canterbury. If you do make him the captain of the club and he leaves in 18 months' time, the optics aren't great for Canterbury. I wonder if potentially, similar to a Kalen Ponga situation, if maybe giving him the captaincy could now entice him to hopefully stay at the club as well. There's a few different ways to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I can't see Matty leaving the Doggies. Because you sit there and you go, okay, the Doggies can offer him a monster contract, whereas I'm going through top tier teams. Unless he was willing to take another pay cut, and not pay cut, but stay around that 500-600K. What top tier team really needs a 6 right now that would use Matty Burton the way he needs to be used? But you're right though, he hasn't re-signed, so you don't want to make him captain and bloody all of a sudden he's gone in 2 or 3 years or whatever, or even a year. So you know what? Having thought about it all, you're probably right in regards to Fox. Timmy, what do you reckon?
I'm pretty torn, boys. I'm just trying to run through the options in my head, and the probably stand out for me if they're investing in him for another year or two is Luke Thompson. And look, I've never met Luke Thompson, but on all reports, he does seem like a good leader. He seems like a natural fit for the role, particularly in the fact that if he was to go and do it for a couple more seasons, that would pave the way, Kempy, for Matty Burton, the obvious option to take over at sort of, say, 24, 25 years old. I lean a little bit the same as you with the Fox. I think he's the free spirit, the energy in the team. I like him in that role. Not that I don't think he'd handle the pressure, but I think probably Luke Thompson is the one. Reid Marnie's 24, but you probably think maybe he's a year or two away as well. It's a really intriguing one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's look. Put it this way: if Luke Thompson is in their plans going forward, and it's all just nonsense, the reports, Luke Thompson I would definitely go with, just because of I've met Luke, great bloke, really easy to talk to, and also the way he plays rugby league. Even if he's not the biggest talker, the way he plays is very inspirational. Leads from the front. So yeah, look, if they're going to keep Luke Thompson, I think it's everything that I've read has really just been about the size of the contract that he's on. He's on quite a big wicket. And I think that may be the sticking point, maybe. But really interesting times with the Dogs. And as I said, massive congratulations to Josh Jackson, and thank you for your incredible service to Rugby League, because he has been